Hi, I'm Ward.
Hi everyone, I'm Raj.
So what are we talking about today?
So today let's talk about the zero standing privilege for AWS. What do you think?
Yeah,
Should we get started?
That's great. You've wanted to talk about that for quite a while now. So
Okay, let's get started. So today we are going to do a whiteboarding. So what we will do is an example. It can be Okta, it can be CyberArk IDP, it doesn't matter. And on the other side, we are bringing AWS IAM Identity Center as my favorite cloud provider. Do you agree?
it's your favorite. I agree. It's your favorite cloud provider.
Yeah. Okay. So let's write down. So this is what my IDP. So here, everything is going to start from my IDP, and then all my users and groups are sitting here in my Entra ID. It can be created locally or it can come from Active Directory. So it doesn't matter. So using the scheme provisioning, all my users and groups will come from Entra ID to my AWS IAM Identity Center. So this is a very basic setup, right? What we see, what most of the customers they do, they simply assign the permissions on the basis of the groups. So like, for example, group to permission set to your AWS accounts. Okay, this is how most of the customers they do it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take an example, right? In the group, it can be user number 1 to 20, for example.
Okay.
And most of the customers, what they do use, they simply assign this AWS administrator access permission set, and they may assign it to these permission set across like dozens or even hundreds of AWS accounts. So let's take an example. Account number 1 to 100.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, this is what everybody calls it a standing privilege. Here, these users, they have a permissions 100% of the time. Okay, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen if the user identity gets compromised? Or somebody steal a session cookie for the ongoing session, attacker, they will have an access to the entire AWS environment, and it can be very, very risky. So this
Yeah,
is
of
what the
course.
standing privilege is. Do you want to add on anything, what?
No, it's quite risky, isn't it? It's
Yes.
You have the user has all this power. They have all this power.
Yeah.
You said 100% of the time.
Yes.
Even on the weekends, even when they're asleep, all those permissions are there. That's basically those accounts are a nice target
Yes.
for attackers to compromise.
Yes. And I was talking to like a couple of customers in Singapore, a couple of customers in Australia and India as well. Everybody tells me most of these customers, they have a specialized team called SRE team, Site Reliability Engineering team. Most of these team members, they have access to all the AWS accounts. So again, going back to the problem statement, if attacker compromise any of the SRE engineers, they will get an access to their entire cloud estate.
Yeah, and it's the bit that's really surprising here as well is that by now everybody should know that identity compromise is disproportionately represented in overall cyber incidents, right?
Yeah.
It is not necessarily compromise itself that's the incident. It's basically that makes it possible to have a lot of other things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where, so to resolve this challenge, so that's where we move from standing to zero standing privilege. Or some people call it a ZSP or ZSP. So as the name states, so it can really help you to achieve to a nirvana state. So where at any given point of a time, your users will have zero permissions, no permissions at all. So that's the beauty about this zero standing privilege. And ZSP, ZSP, it came from Gartner a couple of years back. So that's where I see that entire industry started talking about it. And from CyberArk standpoint also, so we started providing the ZSP for the multi-cloud access. Currently, we support AWS, Azure, and GCP. As we are talking about specific to AWS IAM Identity Center or AWS Access, let's stick on to AWS. So let me show you how does this entire approach is going to look like. So here we are going to grab Entra ID as our IDP again. It doesn't matter what sort of IDP you guys are using. Then we will have our AWS IAM Identity Center. And we are going to bring CyberArk into the equation as well. So here we will have CyberArk in the equation as well. So this one is my IDP.
So that's unchanged from before, right?
That is not going to change. So your users groups are still going to come from Entra ID using a scheme. So users and groups will come here. So now in this case, right, compared to the last time here, my users, they will not have any permissions at all on any of the AWS account. Zero permissions. Again, we will look into all these things in the demonstration as well. So user will come to Entra ID. User will get redirected to AWS IAM Identity Center. User will see, hey, I have zero permissions, no permissions at all. So now user needs the permissions, right, to do his or her job. So that's where user will come from Entra ID to CyberArk Identity Security Platform. From an Identity Security Platform, so we leverage upon a module called Secure Cloud Access. So here, once user come to the CyberArk platform, so user is going to say, hey, I need, let's take an example. This user is WardU. You will say, hey, I need a reader access permission set for account number 1. AWS account number 1. See, my handwriting is so bad. So what's going to happen when user is going to click on a connect button? So CyberArk will talk to the AWS IAM Identity Center behind the scenes using the APIs. And we are going to do this binding where Ward will get that reader access for AWS account number 1. And this access is valid only for, like, for example, 2 hours time frame.
And then afterwards it gets automatically removed.
After that, for example, again, the user Ward will go back to the zero permissions again. So going back to the problem, right? We were talking about the problem about the standing privileges, user identity gets compromised. Here in this case, if you think about it, your users will have zero permissions. So no permissions at all. If you user have zero permissions, what attacker can do? It's going to be very, very limited damage.
Well, and if we set as zero permissions, the only thing you can see or you would be able to confirm is that the account exists.
Yes.
The user account exists, and beyond that, you can't do anything.
Yes. And same thing goes for a session cookie theft. Again, attacker may not be able to do much. Attacker has a very short time frame window, 2 hours window only, when your access is going on to go and do any kind of a compromise.
Yeah, well, in a sense, what we're doing here is rather than in the traditional PAM sense, where we have people borrowing an account from a vault and using that to connect here, we're actually having users use their normal account, which in a normal condition has zero permissions.
Yes.
So it is a user that is no different from any other user account in a sense. But then on demand, we elevate that user account, and for example, 2 hours, we make that account privileged for a set period of time, and then we remove those permissions again afterwards.
Yes.
And of course, we can specify the scope, and we can specify what those permissions are.
Yes. So here within zero standing privilege, right, or within secure cloud access, so there are two different things we support. We support a daily access. So daily access means access you need it on a daily basis or a continuous basis, right? For such kind of access, it can be reader access, it can be access to your production, access to your dev or a test environment, which is not as critical as your production environment. So you can put your user through this daily access kind of a thing. User will come in to CyberArk to gain those permissions for a very, very short period of time. After that, user will go back to the zero permissions again. Another thing, a lot of customers, they talk to us around the ad hoc access. So I was giving an example about SRE, right? Some of the SRE team members, they may have access to like all the different AWS accounts with the administrator permissions, and many times it doesn't make sense. They need an access only and only if something breaks. Then only they quickly need an access for such kind of an access. So user can go through a approval workflow to gain those access. And so currently within the CyberArk, so we support Slack, we support ServiceNow, and on the request from like a lot of customers, we started having this approval workflow within the platform itself as well.
So without external dependency.
Without external dependency. So we got a service called Access Request Service, and we call it a in-platform approval workflow. So that's where like once you slowly move from daily access to ad hoc access, so you will be able to reduce the risk even further. And if you ask me like what strategy most of the customer they leverage upon, both daily access and ad hoc access. Daily access for like less privileged kind of access, for access to the dev and the test environment. Ad hoc access is primarily for the any kind of a production access environment, read, write, delete kind of a privileges. Should we show everything in action?
Yeah, a demo would be good.
Yeah. So here is my Unfriday portal. So myapps.microsoft.com. So here to access my AWS IAM Identity Center, I'll simply click on this tile. I should get redirected to my AWS IAM Identity Center. Here you see this user have zero permissions.
Yeah, you can't even see any account, right?
I don't see any accounts. I don't see any permission sets at all. So now the point comes how this user can quickly gain a permissions. So this is what my user is, user1@identitysecurityworkshop.com. So to gain those permissions, so what I'll do, I'll simply click on this CyberArk tile. So once I get redirected, so here you see I have access to my 2 different AWS organizations. I have access to the Microsoft Azure as well. For this particular demonstration, we will focus upon this AWS IAM Identity Center access. So I'll simply click on this tile. And here you see what CyberArk provide for audit and compliance purposes. We provide a session recording and session protection as well.
Mm-hmm. Good. How is this implemented? Does this require any particular server or any connect or anything that needs to be deployed?
You don't need to worry about any kind of a server. The way we have implemented this technology is with the help of the browser extension. So here, if I go here, so you see this is what my browser extension is. So this is what's gonna get enabled behind the scenes for this particular website.
So what happens if I don't have that extension installed?
If you don't have this extension installed, you will not be able to gain those permissions at all.
Okay, so you need to have the extension installed, but then ultimately the whole process from all the different portals we're using, everything is purely SaaS native. There is no actual components you need to deploy, no servers, nothing.
No servers, nothing, just the browser extension. And all the recordings are going to get stored in the CyberArk cloud itself. So I will say, hey,
very nice.
The session is going to be monitored. I'll click on continue button. So it takes a couple of seconds for me to get redirected to my SCA user page. Here we are on a user page. Here, if you see as part of this unlimited or a daily access, I have access to my master account and I got access to 2 different permission sets of the roles.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, right, we were discussing about, these permissions are valid only for 1 hour. After that, user will go back to the 0 permissions.
Can you control here as well when people can request that? For example, say like your user A cannot request this, say for example, on the weekend because they have no need for that. Is that something that can be configured?
Yes, that can be completely set up by the administrator. Administrator can clearly define that user can access these permissions only from Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. Okay. So I was talking to one of the banks in Singapore. We got a similar requirement where banks, they want their user to go through this access only during the office hours only. Any kind of access during the window, over the weekend or after the office hours, they should go through approval workflow. For approval workflow, one of the things what we were discussing about the request access, user can simply click on a request access and that's how this approval workflow can happen. Okay. For this demonstration, let's take an example. Hey, I want to gain an access to this master account data scientist permission set. So what I'll do, I'll simply click on a connect button. So behind the scenes, so that's where the magic happens. CyberArk will call upon AWS IAM Identity Center APIs and that will be doing the binding. So here you see, I got redirected to my AWS portal within a couple of seconds. Here you see user 1 at the rate of identity security workshop, same user. If I click on this master account, I got an access to this data scientist permission set. So what I do, I'll simply click on this data scientist permission set. I'll get into the account and here you go. And here at the browser, you see this entire session is being recorded. Step recording is being turned on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is very impressive in a sense, isn't it? You log into the CyberArk portal and you click a button, just request what you want, and the whole process takes you straight through very rapidly, very quickly. And then afterwards, after the 1 hour has elapsed, those permissions are going to be removed again.
Yeah. So here, as this permission set, I don't have access to these Bedrock, AWS Bedrock. So that's why I keep on getting this denied message. But this is how this entire 0 standing privilege is going to look like for AWS access. Anything else you want to add on?
No, I just think those access and it's just quirks of your favorite cloud platform, right?
Yes. So maybe I think next time we can look into your favorite cloud provider and then we can try to understand, right, how does this entire ESP for Azure is going to look like. and slowly we can talk about GCP.
Well, ultimately, the core functionality is the same across the 3 different cloud platforms in that we take a user account and we do on demand, we elevate the permissions that they need. In case of Azure, that would be RBAC roles. Here we talk about permission sets. In GCP, it's a little bit different. There is obviously some differences in how our platform talks to those platforms.
Yes.
But by and large, the concept is the same. Right?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
That was very interesting.
Yes. Thank you, Watt.